So, welcome back to Neon Genesis Evangelion, reviewed by a guy who's actually read Genesis. What is this series? It's me, GW, somebody who's actually read Genesis, reviewing Neon Genesis Evangelion. When I started this, I had my thoughts about it. At first, I was like, oh, it's going to be just the same book, but in neon? Come on. It turns out to be a great adaptation of the light novel thus far, but with some significant liberties taken. So, there's been some symbolism I've been questioning in it, and the most recent episode I watched was, of course, episode 5, which Netflix has a weird title for. One sec, let me pull this up. The episode called Ray Beyond the Heart. The one where they begin to kind of elaborate on who Ray is, because she's an important character that we've kind of been sidelined. Shinji is one of the pilots of the Evas, and she's another pilot of it. Now, while with many of the other female characters, I've noted the idea that they were certain amalgamations of other biblical characters. Others were split, like for instance, Shinji is I believe is the amalgamation of Adam and Cain. I believe that Ray may very well be the amalgamation of Seth. Well, I said that may be the representation of Seth, the younger brother of Cain and Abel. And the reason that I have this theory is because is at this point in time she's portrayed kind of as not she's kind of an opposite to Shinji, whereas Shinji is distant from his father. She's actually close with his father. It's established in this episode that they're actually very fond of each other. So I believe that she may be kind of that feeling of what Adam had, where his frustration with God, and maybe even the father supposed to be a representation of Adam, how Cain was banished away from his family, but still had God, and in kind of the same sense that Shinji's father is there, but they aren't close at all. Ray is instead close with the father, existing as kind of that natural counter to him, in a sense being more a pure figure that Cain was not after he killed his brother, and therefore still worthy of their father's love. However, she seems to also perhaps be, she herself may be an amalgamation of another, in that she's also a pilot, perhaps also part of that rebellion. Maybe there's a piece of Adam in there as well, in that rebellion against being kicked out of their home, fighting against monsters and angels that are indistinguishable from each other now. So some of the theories I have, and I'm going to elaborate on a few pieces here and there as I give us the quick recap. So episode starts, and we see this incident where Ray is that got Ray injured like she was in the first episode. Turns out the Ava unit she tends to operate, Ava 00, is crazy, or at least goes berserk, likely because of her damaged mental state. And she gets injured. They try to eject her, but it turns out to be a miserable failure and just gets her slammed all around before crashing to the ground. They shut down the Ava units, and Shinji's father runs down to break Mr. I guess Dr. Akari, I think is what he's called. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. And he breaks her out of it at the cost of burning his hands, because like the pod she's in is burning hot. So he scalds his hands, but he's able to get her out, and in doing so ends up getting his glasses damaged. She ends up keeping these glasses, which is important in a minute here. And the episode kind of explores them just unearthing, trying to examine the specimen that Shinji had brought down in episode 3. He's trying to examine the angel as best they can, get a better understanding of the enemy, and discover that they're almost completely human, at least biologically. So they're confused as to how this has even happened. Then Shinji asks about, okay, what's going on? That my dad has these burns on his hands, and they explain that he'd saved Ray. After this, Shinji is at school with the bad boy and videographer from the previous episodes, which he's now made friends with. And they're all crushing on the girls, and they notice that he keeps staring at Ray. And at first they're like, dude, dude, yeah, into everything in her boobs, but it's good. And like, he's like, nah, man, nah. I'm just like, she's the other pilot, but I know nothing about her. She's always alone. Like, yeah, I don't think she makes friends. It's kind of a difficult personality. After that, we see the scene where it turns out that while she doesn't have friends, she has a very positive relationship with Shinji's father, who before this had been portrayed as nothing but cold and uncaring, but for her seems to actually have a deep sense of affection for. Shinji takes note of this as he's like across the way from her, as and him as he sees this going down. Again, those feelings that perhaps Cain felt about Seth, or may have felt about Seth and his other siblings, because I believe there were other siblings that aren't mentioned explicitly, but I believe that was the case. They don't usually mention sisters because those books were kind of written by some, unfortunately, a lot of sexists were involved in creation of it, but hey, we're not worried about that right now, are we? That's a discussion for later. Whew. Shinji has dinner with the lady doctor and Misato, and the lady doctor tells Shinji, hey, could you give Rei this card? Go and stop by her place. Nice, and just give it to her. She needs a new clearance card. Hers is expired. I keep forgetting to give it to her. And it's like, okay. And at first, he gets all flustered about it, and they think, oh, he's got a crush. Then they start teasing him about it before realizing he's like, nah, I just don't know nothing about her. She's the other pilot. I mean, seriously, what? So he goes over to her place the next day to give it to her before they have to go out to deal with what turns out to be, before they go to the nerve headquarters. Because she's fully healed now, it's time for her to get her test. It's time for her to test the suit again, because she initially got injured in a failed test with Unit 00. And he goes into her apartment because finds that it's a trash heap and the door's unlocked. He's just trying to find her, give her the card, and actually uncovers her being naked. Before he does this, though, he's confused. He's like thinking, is these her? Why does she have broken glasses? These hers? He tries them on. Then he turns around, notices her, and she tries to take them off, but in the confusion and in his freaking out, they fall, and he accidentally lands with his hand very much so against her boob. Because, yeah, they fall on top of each other. And at first, he's all embarrassed about that. And she's like, could you get off? He does so, she gets dressed, and two of them just kind of then make their way over. She's not even remotely bothered by it, it seems, and he's just confused the entire time. Make their way to the nerve base, and she can't get in. He's like, this was why I was there. Kind of, you need the new card. She takes it from her right quick and swipes in. And and he tries to make conversation with her as they're descending an escalator, and just keeps asking her questions, trying to get it's something out of her that he can actually understand. He wonders if she's concerned about the test, and he's like, do you not trust your dad? Do you not trust Dr. Akari? And he's like, the dad like that? How could I? And then she's upset by this, so she turns around and slaps him. He's just left confused by the whole matter. There she goes. She's getting ready for the test, gets in, and test begins, and then an angel attacks. So they suspend the test, and Shinji's sent out to fight the monster. But then as soon as he gets out, the monster was powering up, turns out a laser attack, and blows a hole through the Eva unit's chest, which of course Shinji feels. He starts screaming out in pain. Then the episode ends there. Presumably Rei will be coming in the next episode to assist in the fight, because wow, poor guy. But yeah, he suffers those severe wounds, and it seems here again, as I was expressing earlier, the sort of affection that perhaps was felt, that God was still showing love to one of his, that Adam and God's mixture was showing love to one of the children, meanwhile the other was that Adam was still showing love to Seth, though Cain was, of course, sent away from his home. This is by God in the light novel, I should note, not by Adam. And again, perhaps those feelings of separation and loss, perhaps even with Seth being able to have a healthier relationship with God than Adam did, since Seth was able to turn from sin rather than turn to it as Adam did. But again, it's one of those, it's a bit too soon for me to know that much. Again, I'm seeing Misato, perhaps the lady doctor, being perhaps more along the lines of friendly characters, perhaps the other people that were supposedly in the world at this point, because I think we're still early in the Bible's arc, but we're getting to the Noah stuff soon, which I do actually want to take the time to note. They noted a few episodes prior that there was something called the Second Impact. This is when all the angels got here. They landed in I believe in the North Pole or the Antarctic, one of the two, and melted all of it, and it completely flooded out a whole bunch of areas and started attacking. This is believed to be the start, and this is how things are at the start of the series. This could be why that's why there's Tokyo 3 instead of the original Tokyo, or Tokyo 2 even. At least I think Tokyo 2 even. Maybe Tokyo 2 will be a thing later. But it also makes it, it expresses a lot, and perhaps this is a mixture of some of the later arcs. Like, we're already going to go through the whole Noah arc. Like, that's just not a concern. Noah's Ark is not a concern because Noah's Ark already happened in a way. Perhaps they're going that method with it. I should have mentioned it episodes prior, but hey, I am now, so that counts for something. But overall, I feel this is an interesting episode for our start to the next character arc for everyone. Perhaps we're getting into Noah or even Abraham era stuff. So we'll have to see where they actually go with that. What is Ray meant to represent as the second pilot? Where are what direction are we really want to take this with it? She's this kind of counter. They're both Shinji and Ray are socially awkward, but in different ways. Shinji is just used to keeping everyone at a distance. Meanwhile, Ray just is, as the lady doctor describes, all thumbs. She just seems to have a personality that makes it difficult for her to get along with others, and her entire past is a mystery. So what exactly the method is they're going with that, I'm not sure yet. Perhaps again it's like Seth, where perhaps they are trying to go for more with Seth, because very little is actually said about Seth in the Bible, in the Genesis light novel. So it could very well be that she is trying to be like Seth in the sense of, since there was very little said about Seth in the light novel, they're going to do say little about Seth's past in this version. Of course, Seth is Ray. So maybe that's the direction they're going with it. Again, these are theories. I mean, more solidified ideas that I really do think Shinji is more an amalgamation of perhaps even just parental issues and religious struggles, within the Genesis life. That we'll have to check out the next episode to see the answer to that. So that'll do it for me. So thank you so much for listening in. Please be sure to, if you enjoyed this, give it a like on whatever the equivalent is on whatever media you're using, on whatever service you're using. Follow or subscribe. Go ahead and leave some comments if you have anything you'd like to say about this. If you want to share any theories or want to make fun of me, go right ahead. But that's it for me. I'm going to go watch the next episode. So this is G Rig and W, wishing you a good night, good day, and good friggin' bye.